the rest. But normally we start from the middle, and this time I started from the start. So let's go and put it back here. Can you all hear me okay? Good. Wow, the room went real quiet instantly this time. Normally it takes like a full minute, minute and a half before people quiet down. So it seems like people are ready to get into it. So thank you very much for coming today. I am Josh, if you hadn't clocked that yet. So I'm co-founder and CEO at Mindstone. How many of you have been to a Mindstone event before? Yes. See, it's building. I mean, it took, what, 2.5 years, and now more than 50% are repeats. Really great. So I want to give you a little bit of an idea of why we do these events, and to what you might expect. So for those of you that were here before, I mean, I know I do have, there's still like 40% of people that are here for the first time, so apologies for me doing the spiel again. But the whole start of the event here was that about 3 years ago, basically when ChatGPT happened, there was kind of this thing about, well, I'm building an AI company, I'm in London. Are we being totally crazy being here? Because if somehow in the Valley they know much more about everything that's happening in AI, and I'm building an AI company, wait, am I wasting my time to begin with? So I went over, wanted to figure out how far behind are we at all? And there were two things that I came away with after spending about a week and a half there. One was that the conversation was actually not at all more sophisticated over there than it was over here. If anything, if I'm honest, the technical conversation was better with people here in London than I had in Silicon Valley. But every time you started a conversation over there, it was about everything you could do with it. What were the amazing things that you were going to try? Everything that people had tried and failed. And it was all about, okay, what good can we go and do? And when I came back over here, the only thing people wanted to talk about was, yes, but have you thought about privacy? Yes, but have you thought about the end of the world? And I was like, it's important, and I don't want to undermine it. And I actually am very happy to go very deep into all of those challenges. But at least once a month, on this side of the ocean, I wanted to create a forum where we could talk about all the amazing stuff that we can do with this technology. That started 2.5 years ago. Barry was there as well. It was not too far away. It was actually on the Strand. It was about 30, 35 of us, something like that. Believe it or not, we had the first version of a functioning agent that was demoed on that day, which was really interesting. You had two agents talking to each other, basically, going back and forth. Now, we have more than 20 of these events every month all around the world. Madrid, Barcelona, Paris, Toronto, Dallas, Atlanta, New York, like it's going all over. We've got about 100 or so people turn up to each of these. So it's a lot, more than 2,000 people every month coming to these events in different ways. We just opened Bangalore. I mean, I've never been to Bangalore and we have an event there. So all that to say thanks, and all of the events that we have, by the way, they're always uploaded, so all the talks and the demos, they're always uploaded to the platform, so go and have a look at all the others that you see everywhere. And then none of these events would work without some of the partners that we have, because obviously they do cost money. I mean, at this point, Mindstone is throwing a decent amount of money at them as well. But we have really great partners, and one of them being RecWorks, who has helped us literally from day one. So actually, Barry, do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Barry. So yeah, as Josh says, I was there on that first one and seeing these two agents talking to each other. I think one was trying to sell insurance and the other one was trying not to buy it. And at the time, it was like, just like something off of Star Trek, whereas now it's just like we could all do that, right? But no, a very amazing community. So I run RecWorks, which is a tech recruitment company. If anybody's interested in hiring software engineers, happy to have a chat afterwards. I would say to everyone, so obviously there's going to be some pizza, some people dash off afterwards and some people stick around. I'd highly recommend sticking around, having a chat with some other people here. Like we've done this, again, coming up 3 years, and I've just met so many amazing people. So there is incredible people out there today that you don't know. Try and find them afterwards. One other thing that I'm very keen to start doing. So we ran something, we run like a load of communities. That's how we first got involved in this, like CTOs, London Java community, and a load of other things in London. We also run something called Meet a Mentor, which is where people can come along, it's completely free, and get connected to mentors for all sorts of different things. We're looking at setting up an AI version of this. So if there's anyone out there who would consider helping people that are trying to get into AI, so if you've got just a bit, if you've been through a journey yourself, learning a bit of practical AI, technical AI, whichever side of it is, and you're interested to help people that haven't, even just a bit, please come and find me afterwards. I'd love to have a chat with you and explain a little bit more about what we're doing. But otherwise, have a great session. Enjoy it. Cheers.
Thank you very much. So the other two partners, I forgot there's a really big one missing. That's my mistake. So, well, the other two, so Founders Capital for anyone that invests in or invests in early stage AI. If you are interested, come and talk to me about it, because we've partnered with them to syndicate and make sure that we have some really interesting opportunities on that front. Then Boardwave, who are a CEO organization across, basically a CEO network across Europe, trying to reproduce some of the network effects that you have when you put founders and CEOs in a group together across an area as large as Europe in order to try and figure out how to counterbalance some of what is happening in the valley, really the network effects that come out. And then the one that is left off, and I'm going to have to make a point of how important they are, Gamma. They should be on there. Gamma are a slide deck creation. So basically, they prepare your presentations for you. They have been supporting us all over the world. I couldn't recommend them more. I use them all the time myself. Actually, you can also do documents. So all of my proposals are Gamma proposals at this point. And they dramatically better than Copilot PowerPoint. So have a look. And I think that is it. Today you're going to have two demos. It's going to be Amir and myself. Why? Because it's a bit of a special one as well. We're going to, so a month ago, for those that were there, very last minute, someone had swapped out and or had dropped out, and I kind of gave people. How many of you were there in December? A few. So you saw a preview of what Rebel was, which is the thing that we had been building, but it wasn't really the time that I should be demoing because it wasn't actually ready yet. Today we're actually going to show you just how far that has come within a month. So for those of you that were here last month, it'd be very interesting to see the difference between these two already. And so that's going to take a little bit more, but it's all going to be live demo. And I think on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Amir. Who's going to talk us through how he combines AI and healthcare, and we're going to build something on the spot as well. Big round of applause for Amir.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Amir. Thank you, Josh, for having me and having me back so soon. I was here in December to give a bit of a story about how we came to meet, and that was through TikTok, funnily enough. So if you know that story, then great. I'm not going to repeat it here today, but I'm really excited to give you a live demo. So you will have noticed that DR means I'm a medical doctor by background, which is an unlikely place for me to end up here today. I'm not a technician, I don't know how to code, and I never have. But a couple of years ago, working on the front line of the NHS, when AI was going crazy, I started to think to myself, God, there's so many inefficiencies, obvious things in our healthcare system that can be changed with very basic tools. Why are these not being implemented? The tech exists, people are building this stuff, but why is it not actually here at my fingertips? So I kind of did the brave thing of trying to address it myself and went on this wonderful AI journey, startup journey. And so I learned a few things. And now I'm at the point where I want to show you, first of all, any clinicians in the room, actually? Anyone from a healthcare background? Oh my God, that's great. Okay, that makes me really happy because when I was coming here a few years ago, I was the only person it felt like from a healthcare background, and I just wanted to scream and shout about this stuff to everyone else who I was working with, and everyone thought I was that weird AI guy. So I want to show you how anyone can take very basic tools and use them to do something practical in everyday life or healthcare or any other sector that doesn't revolve around being a technician. So everything will be live, so we'll see how this goes together. But before we kick into it, I want to ask everyone a question. How many trust being a collection of hospitals or community services for the NHS, how many do you think there are in the UK? We've got 400, higher, lower, any takers? Oh, okay, so there's about 2,000 hospitals in the entire country, which is a good guess. And there's about 200 trusts in the entire country. Now, what percentage of those hospitals do you think still use paper notes? Not 100, you'll be glad to know, but it's... Okay, so I'll move on to the next slide, and I'm going to put up a bunch of stats which should explain it. I won't go through all of them. But there's 200 trusts, like I mentioned. Those are rough estimates. Obviously, it's very hard to pinpoint these numbers, but 600 million patients in 2023 to 2024 made contact with our healthcare service. Imagine that as a single data point, and imagine how many data points exist for each patient. You start to grasp the idea of how much data there is. Electronic patient records, which is where we store all of our information, this was, when I was in medical school less than 10 years ago, we used paper notes, which was absurd. And now we're using paper notes in 70% of hospitals. Sorry, electronic notes in 70% of hospitals, but still, some things are paper only. And only about 25% of them are digitally mature electronic records. The NHS app has been blowing up. 36 million people by 2025 are now on there, and it's only going to evolve more, I hope. And the other place that data exists is in operational use. So bed managers, theater coordinators, anything that involves patients flowing between one service to the next. But the problem is, this data is a mess, frankly. If you live in East London, and then you go to a West London hospital, your data doesn't carry over. They will know nothing about you unless you've been to that hospital before or if you come holding your paper notes or whatever. That's an issue, obviously. And even in one site, the systems that we use don't communicate with one another. So I can be on the electronic patient record, but if I want to go onto my drug formulary and understand what dose I should prescribe specifically to this one patient who has kidney disease and needs alterations, I have to do it all manually. Now, it's a lot of steps. It doesn't sound like it's a lot, but it takes a lot of time, and it could be much more efficient. And documentation, which we've spoken about, 40% of a clinician's time is spent just on documentation. So next time you're in A&E and you're waiting 4 hours to 12 hours for a doctor, they're probably sat there documenting half of the time. Let that sink in. The good news is the NHS recognizes this as a major problem. So they've put this in their 10-year plan, which came out last year. And one of the big points is converting analog to digital. So NHS app is one of their big initiatives, and adopting health tech in the wider community is a part of that. As well as other things such as going from hospital care to community care and sickness to prevention, which, trust me, we can do more of, even myself included. So let's have some fun. I'm going to try and put this mic up. I have no idea, so someone, oh, it's a clip. There we go. Now, I'm going to give you a couple options, and in real time, we're going to go startup mode and try and build something together. So we've spoken about fragmented patient data, documentation overload, and task chaos, task management in hospitals. So can I get a show of hands for option 1? Which one do we want to build? Option 1? Option 2? And option 3? Oh, okay, task management it is. Okay, let's go for it. So, let's head over to, first of all, perplexity, and find out a little bit about this. Obviously, in the real world, we would want to do interviews with clinicians and people using these systems, but here we'll just try and find out as much as we can using deep research from Perplexity. And here I've got the pro version, so, okay, dictation doesn't work here for some reason. I'll just have to type, sorry. I want to build a clinical task manager used by doctors in the NHS. This will be primarily for ward and A&E use. It will allow doctors to input patient data and track the jobs required to be completed by each doctor in the team in order to manage that patient's care. And then what I did before today was simply use ChatGPT to engineer some prompts. So here I'm just going to copy and paste the prompt that I would use for Perplexity to do a bit of deep research. Give me a clear definition of this problem from a clinician's perspective. Who experiences this problem? Now, obviously, I'll have a bit of insight, but anyone else not from healthcare wouldn't. And then give me some non-AI workarounds that people are currently using, existing solutions. Obviously, we want to do a competitive market analysis. Does anything like this exist? Obviously, we know things like Notion exist for day-to-day admin and task management, but does anything for healthcare specifically exist? And so on. So, deep research will take a few minutes. It's not as quick as a Google AI ChatGPT search, but you can see there it's obviously going through all of its resources. And the thing I love about Perplexity compared to ChatGPT, I find it much easier to follow its line of thought. You can actually go back and see where it's grabbed its information from, and if you want, you can ask specifically for references in, medical research specifically. That's really helpful. As a clinician, we're trained for everything to be evidence-based, so it's really hard for us to trust things that just seem like they've appeared out of thin air. While that cooks, I want to run you through the ideal scenario. Now imagine this as a clinician. Patient comes to you in A&E. You have information about them that exists. They give you their phone, you scan a QR code or whatever it may be, and you know their entire past medical history, their allergies, what medication they're on. You don't need to ask all these questions for the first time. You have a conversation human to human. You have that empathetic approach. You have that real connection. You give them the time that they deserve without worrying about scribbling down notes or rushing back and remembering it all and typing it out. You get transcripts that automatically generate into clinical records. With that, you get real-time decision support. You get the notes that have specific recommendations for treatments based on NICE guidelines, BNF, anything else, local guidelines, and that helps you make the clinical decision, obviously with the clinician staying in the loop, using their clinical judgment and their training to make the decision that's best for the patient. After all of that, the patient is handed over, whether it's between services, so from the front door to the specialist, or whether they're being discharged home to the community, or wherever, a different hospital entirely. Everything can exist in a streamlined manner. And this is the future that we're all hoping for. So let's see what Perplexity has done for us. It's still taking its time. So what I'm going to do in the meantime is go over and simply use a ChatGPT prompt to create the same thing on Lovable. Because we're going to make it anyway, aren't we? We're not going to wait for... Oh, there we go. So it's given us the problems, briefly what we've described. This is saying clinicians spend 73% of their time on admin, which is even worse when you consider referrals and prescriptions and everything taken into consideration. Who suffers the most? Obviously, junior doctors, resident doctors who are on the front line doing this stuff. This takes up most of the time, etc. And then we can look at the gaps in existing solutions, and we'll come on to these at the end of the talk as well. So, using this information, we are going to go to lovable.dev to create an MVP which will be front end only for the time being, and then we will use that to pitch to investors and build a full product later down the line. I was hoping to dictate, so I don't know why it's not working right now, but anyway. I do this before going to Lovable because Lovable, first of all, who's used Lovable before? Good, okay, so a lot of people have. In my experience, if you go there, you just tell it exactly what you want in plain language. It works well, but there's a huge difference when you speak to it in specifics. And if you tell it in layman's tech terminology, specifically what you want it to do in the front end and the back end, and the best way that I've been able to do that is simply use an AI to generate that language for me, because I don't speak it from my background. So, again, this might take a few minutes, so I'm going to ask you another question in the meantime. Say we build this product. Who would feel comfortable if I start using it in a hospital tomorrow? Okay, that's not the answer I was expecting. Why? So, obviously, there's risks of the tools hallucinating. There's the biases that we might be unaware of. And it's not clinically validated. We don't know if it's actually safe. Take another product. For example, somewhere the AI is making a lot of progress in healthcare is with radiology, X-rays, CT scans. They are training models, not just based on existing images and diagnoses, but also using tracking software of the radiologist's eyes to see how the clinician scans the images. You know, the AI is going to be able to do a radiologist's job to a great extent, but still not being adopted because, do we trust it? What if it comes out with a hallucination or a misfire? Let's see what Perplexity has given us. I'm not even going to read this. I'm just going to copy and paste it straight into Lovable and see what it comes out with. Now, again, this will take a bit of time, but you can see what's happening in the background. It's already put out all of its components and it's starting to code. I can't read this. If anyone can, good for you. The other thing that they've started to do is integrate a lot of different platforms into Lovable. So, Shopify, you can now use directly on Lovable. If you're doing something B2C, selling consumer products, you can integrate Shopify into it, and it will take care of your entire marketplace. They've got their own cloud software. You can link up Supabase to it to manage your backend, your databases, and your authentication of users. So the startup that I built in medical education, I did it entirely on Lovable. And it was only when it started to, when we started building our own LLM that I had to bring in external engineers to help me with that. But it shows you how much can be done with very basic tools, which, today we're calling it basic. Last year, this would have been revolutionary. So here is requiring us to connect it to a Supabase project, of course. So this is where the complexities add. Okay, so instead of doing all that, I'm going to show you something else that I prepared just before because I anticipated some friction. Take one of the other examples. This is a patient passport, okay? I did the exact same thing to generate a prompt and plugged it into Lovable, and it gave me this from the first prompt. I didn't have to go back and edit it at all. The patient can input all of their information right onto this passport. They can have an emergency card, so when they show up to an A&E, we know everything critical about them right off the bat. They can put in their medicines right into here, and then they can track their own history. And then they can come to us with that, and we can scan it in a minute, hopefully upload it onto our system, and use it. And this is what I'm talking about. Imagine if you could generate a QR code that gives you access to all of this information without having to repeat it every single time. So, something that I don't love about this is that the user interface when you come onto it isn't very nice. It's very clunky. Imagine a patient is using this. You want it to be a bit more obvious where to go and what to do. So, instead of going between the different tools, instead of going between Perplexity and back to Lovable, I'm just going to chat to Lovable. Hey, I want to create a more user-friendly homepage that any patient brackets, from any cultural or education background can easily interpret. So now Lovable itself is going to suggest the changes that it will then implement itself. So I'm talking to this as if I would talk to a CTO or anyone else. It will just say, okay, let me look at the app first of all, let me see what's going on. It's even taking a screenshot so it knows what the homepage looks like. And then it's going to start listing off, why don't we do X, Y, Z? And if I'm happy with it, all I have to do is click a button that says implement plan. And the rest is taken care of. So, I'll come back to that in a second. Now we want to take this idea to investors. Create a slide deck that will be presented to investors. This should be 6 slides long. I will copy and paste the output directly into gamma.app. Gamma.app was mentioned earlier by Josh, and if you haven't started using it yet, pay attention, please. It's cut down so much of my time. And the reason I know about it is from coming to this event in the past. So, remember what we spoke about here? On Lovable, it said, let's do all of these changes, for example, accessibility improvements, bottom navigation enhancement. Cool, I trust you. Plan approved. Let's just see what it does. And then, while that's working, I'm going to tell you a bit more about the clinical safety stuff. Who's seen this? What do we think about this? It's very interesting, isn't it? Now, I'm up here talking about all these AI health tech tools and companies. What's to say that this isn't going to come and abolish everyone in the market tomorrow? There's a good argument for it, because obviously they have the customer base already. People have been using them for a couple of years, and we would refer to Google as Dr. Google because patients would research their symptoms before coming in to see us, whereas now they've got OpenAI, they've got Anthropic. And it's going to make things very interesting. I'm not going to go into too much depth because I think it's too early to really say how these will unfold in the future, but right now, these are not classified as medical devices in the UK, which really makes you think, okay, can we trust, but not only trust, can we actually use this information in clinical practice? I think it's going to be a while before we get to that point, but this is something to keep an eye on for now. Okay, let's take our output, which Gamma has given us, and I'm not going to copy and paste the whole thing, I'm just going to copy and paste this text part. And it's literally spelled out, slide for slide, what text our investor pitch should have. So, I'm just going to take that over to Gamma, generate new using AI, describe what you would like to make, and I can select 6 cards, just because that's what we said. And, in real life, I would obviously skim through this, make sure all the information is correct. But once again, we're doing this as a live demo under time constraints, so I'm just going to copy and paste it blindly. I can select specifically how much information I want to be present on each slide. So for example, I'm just going to say concise because investors might not be bothered to read too much. I'm going to select this prism theme because everyone seems to be using that in the startup world and it's shiny and fancy and nice. And we're just going to generate. And I quite like this part of Gamma because it might be a bit of a gimmick, but it literally shows you all the text being typed out as it happens, and it just makes you think, oh wow, this is super futuristic and exciting, and I'm doing a lot of work just by typing in some prompts, and suddenly you've built a startup and a pitch deck in the matter of an hour. So you can see how people are doing a lot of amazing stuff in the health tech world with this kind of tools. But I want to hammer home this final message once again. The barrier to adoption of this technology isn't the technology or the lack of it. it isn't the lack of skill or the lack of awareness of AI, or it might be in healthcare to some extent, but the real challenge is the clinical safety and the interoperability. And what I mean by that is the tech that is built in the outside world, it's agile. You can make it quickly. You have teams that are working around real-life data points. You're testing it in real time. You're iterating it, and you're constantly working based on feedback. In healthcare, it's much more challenging because you have to build clinical safety compliance into your work stream. You need to build with evidence. You need to build with compliance standards. There's this thing called the DTAC, the Digital Technology Assessment Criteria. And you have to make sure that everything is secure. Because until you tick all of these boxes, no NHS body, no procurement office is going to pay you a contract. No one is going to sign anything with you until you have all of these assurances. So take away what I've learned. I'm a clinical safety officer and health tech consultant in my time now, so feel free to connect with me if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to help. But what I want to really leave you all with is maybe a bit of hope, a bit of inspiration that our current healthcare system might be on its hands and knees at some points, but I think with this tech, we can throw out a lifeline. And I believe it's not going to be long before we see a healthcare service like this, where we have futuristic holograms and real-life AI clones of human beings that can predict our diseases and prevent them from happening in the future. So thank you so much, and happy to take questions at the end.
Okay, well then we go straight in. Sorry, I was caught off guard by that one. Okay. I guess we'll go all in. A bit wobbly. Okay. So, the top floor started filling up as well. Hello. So today I wanted to give you a little bit of a view of what we consider at Mindstone to be the future of work. Basically, we really think that at this point it's extremely clear that in the very, very near term, every person in a company will have an agent in one way or another. That agent will have to go and collaborate with every other agent in the company. And the ability to both manage your own agent and enhance it, basically the extension of yourself. We talk about it as a chief of staff, which I know is not a very well-known concept for most people, but the idea of a really great chief of staff is they're your representation wherever you can't be, and they end up extending whatever you want getting done in situations you can't personally be present in. And so we built Rebel. We call it Mindstone Rebel. There's a whole reason behind it, one of them being that we're a European-based company and we're now somehow putting ourselves right in the middle of what every single AI company wants to go and build. So how many of you have heard of Claude Cowork? Yeah, and well, at least all of you now will have heard about Mindstone Rebel too. So there you go. That's 100% coverage versus only about 40%, so we're winning, right? But we're very aware of the fact that we're a small company, but I think we have something that is actually dramatically more powerful than that today. And I want to try and run you through it. Now, there's a few things that really make this special, which is, one, it runs on your machine. It doesn't run in the cloud. It runs on your own files. So you can actually see, if I go into library here, you have a little, you can actually see the files that lay underneath. And then if I go here, you can actually see, you can literally see the folder structure that I've got here. So work, this is all our Mindstone stuff. And then these files are literally what you would see here as well. So everything runs locally. The other thing is that, and I'll go through the general interface afterwards, you have this concept called skills. Now, skills is actually something that Anthropic was talking about as well. We used to call them playbooks. We just decided to use the same terminology so it's easy for everyone else to go and talk about it. But basically a skill is a set of steps or process that you decide to formalize in a way that AI can execute it all the time. So I've been using this for about a year and a half at this point, and so I think at this point I'm at 150, 200 or so different skills that have been documented in one way or another, and because they're now documented, it means that any AI can go and execute on them. And that's really powerful because it means that at any point, for example, I can go and say, use your proposal writing skill, and it will go and build the best possible proposal based on a transcript that I've had with the client. And it knows exactly what good looks like because I've taken the time once to document what does it mean to have a great proposal. One of the keys, by the way, in this, when we build skills, is actually having examples of what good looks like. So not only the process itself, but also like, here are 3 examples of great proposals that I've written in the past, and then suddenly we'll go and do that. So that's another thing. Once you have skills, you then also have another thing, which is that you can start to tell the AI to automatically execute these skills on a regular basis. So you can see here, I'm a serial founder. I'm computer science background, and one of the big things that I'm not great at is focusing on anything but the things that need to change and the things that are not working. So I literally have a daily team shout-out identifier skill, whose only job it is to go and crawl all of my Slack and Gmail and everything else and figure out, wait, who's the person in the company that I should talk to today and say, hey, you did a really great job. I know it's, I guess, somewhat sad that I need a skill to remind me of the thing. I don't know, I guess I'm at least aware of it. But mostly what this is about is I documented once what is the flow, and then it executes every day, in this case, every day at 5 p.m. It'll go and execute, and then it goes into my inbox, which tells me what are the things I should go and focus on. So it's literally like a chief of staff going around and figuring out, okay, hey, Josh, really, you should pay attention to this thing that happened today, and shout out a particular person. Now, all of this works because you can, of course, connect Rebel to every single one of your systems. So you can see here, I've got it linked to Gamma, to all of my email, to, well, in this case, it's got Outlook. We're not actually a Microsoft shop, but I had to test Outlook, so I do have a Microsoft email, and so that allowed me to go and do that. We've got browser automation. I've got a personal CRM, basically just all of my contacts that are nicely cataloged. I've got Fireflies for our notes. I've got a HubSpot integration, so it means that everything I can do, I can just instantly, I can tell it, based on all the emails I had today, go and, we were literally having this conversation earlier today, go and update HubSpot based on the activity that happened in my inbox today. Why? Because I'm terrible at updating HubSpot and making sure that all deals are present in there. So now I can go and do that. All of that to say, all of these, again, are executed locally. So this is not in the cloud. And then the last, there's just a cool thing, which is if I go into library, you can see here, it's going to take a few seconds. Every single one, so I had fun. I have about 20 years worth of notes. They were manual notes. And about 2 weeks ago, I started cataloging them. Basically, I sent every one of my manually written notes over the last 20 years to Claude, and I just got it to do optical character recognition on all my manual notes. So now I have 20 years of digital notes that are all on my machine, and they're all now semantically indexed here, and you can literally see all the links between the different notes that I had in the past, and you can go and zoom into a particular topic. I have no idea, okay, this is Jeremy Utley. I'm probably not going to go and ask a question about this because I have no idea what's going to come out if I do. But you can actually start a chat based on this hub of notes now. So literally what will happen at that point is it starts a conversation and it'll have all of the linked notes of 20 years of my life, and then I start a conversation with that as being the hub. All right? All right, so all of that to say, it's really pretty cool. You can even just go and you can get, as you can imagine, this is going to give me a quick summary of what that particular note was about. If I click on zoom out, what it's doing is giving me a summary of the cluster, which basically means a summary of all of the files that are related in one thing. So it gives me a summary of that particular topic. And it actually tells me how they are related. So there we go. Now, I need to actually click out of this. Now I want to go into, well, I guess this was already live demo, but let's go into live demo, which is actual chat. This interface everyone will know. Why? Because everyone has the chat interface or whatever, the conversation on the left-hand side, and then the thing here, the conversation. Now, I'm going to start with, go through everything you know about Mindstone, and I've got an audience in front of me here for the AI community in London, and tell me the best way to go and pitch Mindstone. There you go, I'm going to do that. The best way to pitch Mindstone to this audience to give them an idea of what we do. Crawl through all your memories and everything you know about Mindstone, and then put the perfect pitch together. Okay, so the first thing to know is that this will be slower than ChatGPT or Claude or anything else. But that is by design. It's very interesting, as we started rolling this out to different customers, you can actually see what's happening here behind the scenes. Right? It's literally reading my file system, because my file system is it's semantically indexed. Basically, it's indexed based on meaning. So Rebel is able to go and figure out what are all the files that are related to this particular query that I can go and read in. If you're the type to sit behind your AI waiting for it to finish, interesting enough, it's actually the wrong way of thinking about AI. Just like you wouldn't get an employee that you would onboard to your company and sit behind them whilst they do work, the whole idea is that you give AI tasks that are big enough so that you don't have to worry about it for a bit. Then you can go and do other work and come back when the work is done. So what you really want to do is you want to give it tasks that are chunky and that require a whole bunch of things that otherwise you would have done. And that is really what Rebel is built for. I have tasks that sometimes take 45 minutes. It'll go off and correlate. Actually, this morning, so we're about to go and raise a round. Actually, that wasn't this morning. So this weekend, I got it to crawl through 6 years of my emails and to prepare a briefing on all the investors I talked to over the last 6 years, tell me where the conversation was left at, in order for me to be able to tell them now, it's like, hey, 3 years ago, we decided not to go and do something together. Oh, but now we have this thing, and contextualize that in a way that would be useful. That took 45 minutes, I think, something like that. But that's the type of task that you can give Rebel. So let's figure out if it actually does something good. Where do we go? The opening hook. Okay, we've trained the C-suites. Let's see here. We've trained the C-suites of 5 of the top 100 companies in the world on AI transformation. Here's what we've learned. 10% of AI adoption is about the tools. 90% is about changing how people think about work. Absolutely. It's actually one of the main lines that I use, which is that I can probably give this tool to everyone in the world, and very few will be able to understand how to actually use it. Why? Because some of what I just said, most people will go and sit behind it and wait for it to go and do work. And they're going to be limited by what they even asked the AI to begin with. All right, so let's go one step further. Now, go and take all this content and build me a gamma presentation that really drives home the point. So what I did there is I just double tapped the speaker icon here, which basically just sends it automatically versus populating the input area. And now let's see what it's going to go and do, because I've got a gamma MCP that is directly related to Rebel. So let's see if it is able to go and execute on it. Come on, live demo. Any questions in the meantime? Yes? 100%. One of the other things that everyone is going to have to go through is getting comfortable paying a shit ton of money to different AI services. I was talking to one of my founders earlier today, and my co-founders. We're currently spending about $1,000 per head in the company just on Rebel usage per month. Per month, right? So let that sink in. That's without our development usage, which is another $1,000 per user. That's the reality. But the other thing, Rebel didn't exist. There was not a single line of code written before the start of December. We're 300,000 lines of code in, and we're mid-January. Like, this normally would have taken 3.5 years for a team of 10. Like, that's also the reality of what's happening. So let's see actually what's coming up here. I can see that it had found Gamma, it made the first one, didn't work, and then there's a mismatch between the schema and what the API accepts. Okay, let me try it with PasteX. Okay, somehow it's figuring out there was something going wrong with the Gamma MCP. Hopefully, it will go and do a better job now. Yes? Yeah, you can, absolutely. Anyone familiar with Claude Code? So basically, this uses the Claude Agent SDK under the hood, and all the bits underneath, it just follows the standard MCP protocol. There is an MCP file that Rebel uses. Literally, if you copy-paste the configuration of an MCP server into Rebel, it will self-configure, relaunch we use the super MCP in the background in order to not exhaust context. It'll relaunch that, and it will configure the tool for you. Sorry? So the model at the moment is good question. So the model, indeed, we use Claude's models, so Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku, depending on what goes on behind. This actually works on local models too. So the other very interesting thing is we can go into companies that never were able to use AI because they can't be sending it to some external cloud. This same thing works with a local model. Right? And that is, because it executes on your machine, there's a lot more that you can do with it. Okay, so it looks like it's actually building the presentation. It's just waiting for Gamma to have actually finished that. I think probably in a few seconds after this. So now here, basically, it just determined I'm going to wait for a little bit until Gamma's ready. There we go. Hopefully that's it. Okay. So now you can see here, it's built a Gamma presentation. Let's see if it's any good? Boom. Yes. AI for the many, not the few. Most companies do AI backwards. Buy ChatGPT licenses, run a 2-hour workshop, expect transformation to happen. Doesn't happen. One of the biggest things that people get stuck with is the moment, like if you just roll out the tools, everyone's like, I'm using AI all the time. It's like, it replaced my Google usage. So you know what? Google wasn't bad. Google did Google pretty well, and if all you're using generative AI for is a slightly better Google, no surprise that everyone's talking about AI being hype, if the only thing you see is a slightly better Google. Right? This is part of the problem, is people don't realize training and actually your imagination is literally the limit that gets you to understand how much you can actually do with AI, because we've all got years and years and years of doing things certain ways that now you have to do differently before you can get to the real value of AI. Anyways, and here it looks at the 90% mindset bet. Our credentials, top tier experience. Yes, we have worked with the biggest companies in the world, like Delta Airlines, Home Depot, Hyatt, Pearson, Fortnum Mason, kind of all across. 3 pillars of transformation: Enterprise AI Academy, executive sessions, Rebel. That's new. First time I'm doing this, so there you go. Okay, it's actually not bad, right? The pitch is landing. I didn't write it. You saw I didn't write it. Okay. Now, let's figure out, okay. Now it's the new thing. So, I'm going to start a meeting. We've all had this. Okay, you don't need to see my face there. I'm going to wait for a second, or a few seconds. There we go.
Taking notes for Joshua. Pretend I'm not here.
So, you might think, like, great, note taker. We all have those, right? Nothing particular. But this is a special note taker. And so, hey Spark, can you tell me what we were talking about in this meeting? Hey Spark, go ahead.
Based on the transcript so far, you were introducing a special note taker to the meeting. That's really all that's been discussed so far.
There wasn't much else. I mean, Spark is right. Oh shit! Now I used I used the trigger word. It's going to go again. Okay, wait. I'm going to have to Spark go again. Whoa.
Based on the transcript, Joshua appears to be noting that using a trigger word causes something to happen again. Spark prompts the note taker to respond. However, the specific details of what has to go again weren't fully explained in the meeting.
Now, the key is, Rebel knows that it's in the meeting. And I've got this toggle in Rebel, which allows me to give it access to my local Rebel. So what I can go and do now, say, hey Spark, can you tell me how I should pitch Mindstones to an audience of the London AI community? Now it's going to take a little bit longer. Why? Because in the background, it's running a full process, it's going through all my files, it's actually figuring out, wait, how do I answer this question? Now, it waits, so it's circling, and it will change its animation, it will actually change its state the moment it has something to contribute to the meeting. So right now, it's indicating that it's thinking, it's basically going through stuff, and you'll see it change state the moment that it is finished its thinking. Hey Spark, go ahead.
Position yourself as living proof the future works. You built an AI operating system, use it 4 hours a day to run Mindstone, and that 10x productivity became your product. Lead with the explosion. Training business grew 7 to 8x to 400K monthly while staying profitable, and Rebel hit 100K ARR in 2 weeks before it was even finished. Close with the mission. Bringing AI transformation to everyone, not just tech elites.
So, I mean, it disclosed a little bit more than I wanted to. But you can see where this is all headed, right? I mean, the next step, and I'm talking like literally next week, it just starts to go through the transcript and proactively start saying, hey, by the way, I've got something to say based on what is currently in the meeting. We're taking these AI agents and going from passive to being genuine, proactive coworkers. And everything here that is happening is shared across the organization. If I actually show you here, in the chat, let's see, if I go here, okay, in this case, it didn't save anything. I think I can go here. So this was one of the big chats I had recently, which was about updating the content of our program. As I'm having a conversation with Rebel about how should we update the content of our program, it stores these as memories that are accessible to everybody else in the organization. And so anybody who then has a question about like what is the content of our program, will have that up to date. When I have a sales call, it takes all the important information, what the rest of the company should know, gets put into company memory. And then when Neil needs to go and put a proposal together, can put a proposal together based on the examples that I've had and based on the skill that we built together on how proposals get built at Mindstone. And that's just on the sales front. Customer success, we have the same thing. We were recently talking about, like there's a new skill now, which is about, we get feedback from customers by email, by Slack, intercom, a whole bunch of different things. Now there's an automated skill at the end of every day that just figures out, okay, what are the customer testimonials that we have? What are the quotes that we can actually take? That normally, you probably all went through this stuff in different ways, where it's like, okay, I need to have a central repository where I can figure out the quotes about the quotes we can use from a customer perspective who have had a good experience. Now you can just query it. It literally just plugs into everything, and every day decides to store this in a nice and central place. And the last bit, so as I said, a month and a half ago, literally nothing of this existed. I mean, the thought process was there. I had my personal operating system, but like this whole thing, 300,000 lines of code, built in the last month and a half. And entirely vibe coded for what it's worth. Any questions? I'm probably going to keep it out of the meeting here. Oh, the other thing is like just a fun thing. If I kick it out of the meeting, it does the...
That's a wrap. Notes will be ready shortly.
There you go. Okay. Any questions? Yes. No, so it's using the Cloud Agent SDK underneath. Sorry, the question was, do we use like some kind of proprietary framework underneath to make the agent work? It's using Cloud Agent SDK. Now, I would say I'm probably doing a decent disservice when I say it's just doing that. All of the agent loops are the Cloud Agent SDK, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff that we basically built on top, which is in relation to the shared memory. There's a whole trust system included, which basically, like when you're in a company, if there's information that is about to go, and share, that it isn't sure you want shared across the rest of the company, it like asks you about it. It's like, hey, are you sure that this should be shared there? Are you okay with it? Like, that was us. The semantic search piece. Like, so the fact that when you're asking a question, it automatically finds all the files that are likely going to be relevant to that particular query, and then amends that or appends that to the query in order to make sure that it has more context on the query that it's answering whilst it's answering that. There's so much stuff we've had to build. All of the connectors, actually, sorry, not all. I think half of the connectors at this point we built ourselves, and half of them were community connectors, MCPs that we pulled in. We find ourselves more and more just rebuilding MCPs. So I don't know about you, but MCPs are getting built, in my opinion, extremely badly. People just think they're some kind of proxy for an API when really they can be much, much more. Like a good MCP tells the AI how to use it to begin with. So we've had to redo a lot of that stuff as well. Hopefully that explains some of it. Sorry, you had another question? So we use this internally entirely. So this is how we do work at Mindstone. And it's extremely hard to answer the question of what do we intend to build. I don't know about anyone who's like really has leaned into the vibe coding piece, but we have now gotten to the point where anything we want to build that used to think, okay, these are massive projects, like the next day they are live. So our actual constraining factor is no longer it's no longer the actual building itself. It's like, okay, what is a really, really chunky thing that we can go and put our teeth in for 3 months? At this point, I literally can no longer come up with a thing that will take 3 months to build, which is, which is crazy. I mean, hardware is a different thing, but software, no longer see it. Yes? So how do you decide what tool to use for what job? So it's a very good question. The reality is there's no perfect answer to it, and the differentiation is becoming less, not more, for many of these products. Because like you used to have Perplexity, okay, if you want to go and do anything search related, Perplexity was the way to go. Now Google does that too, ChatGPT has search integrated. There is still a very different use case overall, but the difference between the tools is getting smaller from that perspective. And ultimately, everyone is trying to build basically what I'm showcasing here, which is Claude Cowork as well, right? Literally everyone wants to build this. So this is going to be the battlefield of AI, is like building a coworker for you. Right? What shape that takes. I was thinking about it this weekend. What does a Slack version of this look like? I want Rebel to constantly be looking at Slacks and just proactively put answers into questions without me even looking at it. Like we've got it working live in meetings now, so why can't I just have it answer my Slack messages for me? Like so long as it's got a high confidence threshold, it'll make some mistakes, but so would a great chief of staff if I had a great chief of staff doing this. I don't know. It's an interesting path. Yes? So February 11th. Yeah. If you're interested, there's a wait list on mindstone.com. You can all sign up. Oh, I forgot to say. If you are really interested, and I'll finish on that then, because I think pizza might soon be there. It is there. Great. If you are interested, you can sign on the wait list on mindstone.com, and if you send us an email with a picture of a LinkedIn post about the event of today, you'll get to the top of the list. So, and on that note, I'm going to finish it there. I'm going to be around, so any questions, very happy to answer. Let me know. Hopefully it was interesting.